Hello YouTube, this is Al coming to you once again from Kindred Souls of Brooklyn, and I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already done so, and if it's your first time watching a video, please subscribe, or second time, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to send me some feedback, you could leave some comments on the reply on the bottom, or you could contact me at connection@kindredsoulsofbrooklyn.com. And folks, tonight I just wanted to talk briefly about the killer whale Tilikum and my experience with him. And I called this video 16 Hours with Tilikum because in 2010, when I was working at Disney in security, I had also worked for SeaWorld part-time. So one day when I was home, I was actually off this day, SeaWorld gave me a call and they asked me if I wanted to do a shift, and I said okay. They needed somebody to just do an extra shift, and I said fine. So I went down to SeaWorld, which is very close to it's in Orlando, obviously. It was only 15 minutes from my house. So I went into SeaWorld and I went to the office. And SeaWorld has Aquatica, they have SeaWorld. You know, there's different duties you could do in SeaWorld. It's a pretty big place and a great place to work security. Very different than Disney, but also a very nice place to work, especially if you love animals. But when I got to SeaWorld, they said, okay, just go into the back to Shamu Stadium and they'll tell you what you have to do. Now, this was in 2010, and it was right after the killer whale Tilikum had killed his train at dawn, and I didn't know at the time that I'd be guarding Tilikum. So I went back to the end of Shamu Stadium, and apparently at the time it was required that Tilikum needed a security guard to watch him and also a trainer. And the reason for this was obviously no one thought that Tilikum was going to jump out of the pool, but people against the unethical treatment of animals, I believe it is, they were all protesting at SeaWorld, and people were afraid of what could happen. So you needed a security guard to be there watching at all times, as well as a trainer. So I asked what I had to do, and they said, really not too much. We want you to sit in the chair and observe and walk around a little bit, and just make sure don't interact with them or anything like that. Don't jump in the pool, obviously. And if someone tries to come through the fence or come over the fence, then obviously you're there to stop them. But you'll have the trainer with you, so if you have any questions, just let them know. So that's what I did. I went and I sat down, and I stood there and sat down initially. And as soon as I sat down, Tilikum was in this pool in the back. It wasn't a small bathtub pool. And contrary to what a lot of people, I haven't seen Blackfish, but I can tell you, I worked at SeaWorld, I'd say about, wow, had to be about 6-7 months I worked for SeaWorld before we moved back to New York. And let me tell you, these people absolutely love the animals. So all I could say is from my experience, whether it came down to people working with the walruses or the dolphins or the orca killer whales, this is a labor of love, folks. These people don't get paid lots of money. I mean, you know, initially you'd say, wow, these people probably getting paid all this money. They got degrees in marine biology. Actually, they don't. It's very minimal. You'd be very surprised to find out how low their salary is, because it's kind of like working for the Salvation Army. You're doing something that you love. Working for Disney even, you do it because you love it, and the dedication. And I could say firsthand, just like in Disney, when you're a security guard at SeaWorld, you can pretty much go anywhere. You know, they check your background, and you guard all different areas. You guard the vault, and you guard the animals, you guard everything, the front gate, everything. And I was able to see the food that they gave them, and the trucks coming in with the Class A food. It was spectacular. And I just want to say that when I sat down and I watched Tilikum for those 2 shifts, it was 2 separate shifts. About a week later, they asked me to do it again. Right away, he came up to the top of the pool, and his eyes were big. His eyes were about the size of like a tennis ball, and his eyes met mine, and it was kind of a connection right away, because I've always had a love of animals. Animals have always taken to me. I don't know if, I guess St. Francis of Assisi, going to Catholic school, I guess maybe St. Francis blessed me with some kind of ability, I don't know, but I just have always had that feeling of being able to connect with animals and people, mind you, but not just animals. And it was just incredible how he just looked in my eye, and I just kind of felt sorry for him. And I just wanted to say in this video that at the time, that was the 3rd person that Tilikum had murdered or killed, but that it was kind of, I think, in a way, a one-off, in a sense that the time he killed his trainer, but the trainer was so close to him, and she, I'm sure she wouldn't want anything bad happening to the whale. I mean, he just passed away last January, and he was 35 years old. But a lot of folks might not know his history. He was captured in 1983, and he was brought to British Columbia, where he was in a place called Sealand, and it was at that place where the first murder occurred that he was involved with. But folks have to realize was that the trainer who was held underneath the water at that situation, she had never been in the pool with those whales before. He was the only male whale in the pool. There was 3 other whales in the pool. All of them were pregnant, and he was a strange person jumping into the pool. So the whales just held the person underwater. So that was the first incident. The second incident happened when Tilikum went to SeaWorld, and it was in 1999, and he was in his tank, and overnight a homeless guy snuck into SeaWorld, and he slept over, and he decided at one particular point during the night to take off all his clothes and jump into the pool with Tilikum. And what he did after that is heaven knows what. There is security footage of it, but we're not going to talk about that here. But lo and behold, again, it was another invader coming in on Tilikum's territory, somebody he didn't know. And I guess the question is, what would anybody do? What would I do? What would your father do? I mean, obviously, you wouldn't want to go to that extreme, but this is an animal we're talking about, a very intelligent animal who doesn't have the capability of calling 911 or calling somebody to come in and defend him or something. So he did what his instinct told him to do, which was to protect himself. So that was the second time. So the third time had to do with Dawn, and I really don't know why he did what he did with Dawn, because there was a tremendous bond there, and I really can't understand why that really ever happened. And you know, this video is not the subject of any kind of like gruesome situation or details. You could look up that on YouTube or on another different channel. But all I could say is, like I said, folks, is that my experience there was all the trainers, all the people there loved the animals. They treated them with the utmost respect and love. And I almost think that when, again, this is just my take on it, and if there's any trainers out there in SeaWorld, and I have a friend of mine who is very close friends with a guy who worked in SeaWorld for 15 years. If he wants to weigh in on this, I'd really appreciate it. But from my experience, from what I could tell looking at this animal, was that when that happened with the trainer, I just think he wanted to get her into the water, or he wanted some attention. You know, you got to realize this was like his wife practically. He was with, you know, that's how they do things in SeaWorld. It was like the animal has one trainer solely, and there's a tremendous bond that occurs. It's similar to the bond that occurs when you have a police dog or something like that, and they go home with the animal at night, and there's more than just a work relationship there. And of course, I'm not suggesting anything strange here, obviously, but my point is that this just wasn't a random person who had mild interaction with Tilikum. This was his main trainer. She was the one that when he needed medicine, she was there to give him medicine. When he was fed, she did a lot of the primary feeding. So this was a very important relationship. So I just kind of think that when he pulled her into the pool and he fatally injured her, I think he probably realized it, and maybe he did what he did after that out of mercy. I really don't know. Again, he's an animal, and probably, you know, obviously he shouldn't have been taken from Greenland, where he was taken from, away from his family. And of course, the only reason why he was taken was because he was so big. He was like in the 99th percentile of killer whales. I mean, this guy was huge. If you want to look at a picture of him, he was like twice the size of the closest whale. And again, that's my take on it. I worked there for 6 months. That was my impression on it. I don't think this was done maliciously, and I really want to come out and say, because I think there's a lot of doubt out there as to what documentary to believe and what this to believe and that to believe. I just want to say that from working with SeaWorld, these people have the utmost love and respect for all these animals, and it was A1 attention and A1 care. And just to add something on was that SeaWorld didn't catch this whale. Sealand in British Columbia went out of business, and SeaWorld was nice enough to take Tilikum in 1992. Otherwise, you know, you can't release these animals back into the wild. They would die being released back into the wild, especially at that point of 10 years old that Tilikum was at the time. So that's my video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. It was certainly the most interesting 16 hours I've ever spent as a security guard ever in my life. I mean, I've done a lot of different things at Disney and at other places I've worked, but nothing really ever compared to that. And I just thought I wanted to put this on film or on digital for everyone to hear, because that's just my take on it. And I could be 100% wrong, but if anybody, like I said, has any opinions, please let me know. Tilikum, it's kind of a shame that he was involved in those 3 murders and involved in those situations, because they probably would have built probably a statue to him, because he was around for 35 years and he was involved in so many shows, and he probably brought joy to a lot of people, probably inspired a lot of people to become marine biologists or veterinarians or things like that. I don't know, we'll never really know. But folks, have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate all the love and support and all the comments. Please keep them coming. I'm here in Sheepshead Bay. I thought it would be cool to, because I work right across the street, but I thought it'd be cool to do this video with a nautical theme. This is a big ship behind me. It's called the Atlantis. It's pretty amazing. It costs about $20,000 to bring the ship out. They do it for weddings and things like that. But so I won't be taking that ship out anytime soon, I don't think. But anyway, folks, thanks for all the love. Have a great night. This is Al signing off. Have a wonderful evening. Stay magical. Good night.